Don't open that box. What have you done? You shouldn't have opened it. You shouldn't have opened it. Opened it. Opened it.
Hello, listening people.
Hey.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, right.
I'm Ryan.
Nice to meet you.
Who are you?
Oh, the show. I'm Bartek.
Hi, Bartek.
You're not going to say your last name?
Nah, they can guess it.
Okay,
You
fair
gonna
enough.
say yours?
Slewinski.
Ah, you got it. That's your last name, not mine. We are Spit and Polish, likingly because we are always spitting, and yes, we are both Polish, as you could tell by my name, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
And
My last name's Slewinski.
you know, as you could easily tell.
My first name's Bartłom, yeah, I don't know what it's from.
The podcast you are currently listening to is our show, Spit and Polish presents The Mystery Box. The Mystery Box, a show in which we present to you a movie discussion show in which we have watched a movie that we have found in the mystery box. The mystery box is a box full of mysterious movies that none of us have ever seen or heard of before. Where are these movies found at? You know, to give an audience a kind of idea of where we would find these unusual, unknown, mysterious movies.
Well, based on the intro, it sounded like we were in a crypt of some sort.
Yeah.
And I'm, by the way, I'm the one that opened the box. Sorry, voice. But I asked the voice, wherefore art did these... I'm not really good with the old English, but I was like trying to appeal to it. Yeah. Just, wing it. And the voice told me, why did you open it? Oh, they come from cash converters and op shops and stuff like that, dude.
Yeah, secondhand. So people owned these before, and then they gave them away for charity or money.
And then the next step is question mark. Step 4 in the crypt, and then then I opened it.
We found these movies. Now, not to say that every movie that we cover is a completely unknown movie. They may
or a movie at all.
They may be something you know, but they're definitely things that we don't know anything about. Mm-hmm. And we had the joy of watching a movie that was chosen at random today. What was the film that we had to watch from the box?
The movie that we watched from the mystery box this episode was a movie that was all the way in the corner of the box. Jack Hunter and the Lost Treasure of Ugarit.
Ugarit?
I believe that was the pronunciation.
We made a bet before. We made what did we think the movie, like the pronunciation of the word was, and I said like Ugarit.
Yeah, you added like an R-A.
And yours was Ugarit.
Yeah, Ugarit.
And the guest chose yogurt. So that gives us a nice lead-in to introducing our guest, because we don't always watch the mystery box movies alone. Sometimes we have the pleasure of having a guest. And the guest has the honor of not only being on the show and having to watch the movie, but also selecting the movie. So let's give a big round of applause to the lovely woman who had the choice of selection for this episode, Rachel Apps. Hello, Rachel.
Hello. Thank you. I was waiting for the applause to actually happen.
I was just going to edit them in. It was going to be like one clap, just looped.
Well, you can just do what I do when I need a link applause and just type polite clapping and just go to YouTube and find that, because it's nice and genuine. It feels like you're not going overboard on like the woo, yeah, like crazy ones, but it's like, oh, you know what? They're being polite. They like it.
But you mix that with one guy wooing.
Like the golf clap.
Yeah, golf clap for
That's
Rachel.
a bit too pussy. I'm talking like medium polite clap.
We're not doing Mr. Bones. That would have been appropriate. A movie that was revolving around golf. No, we did Jack Hunter and the Lost Treasure of, what was it? Ugarit.
No, that was your
That
guess,
was
Ryan.
my selection. Was it Ugarit?
Ugarit.
Ugarit.
Yeah.
Not yogurt.
It wasn't quite as, I guess, as exotic pronunciation as we were expecting.
No.
It just sounded like Americans were like, oh yeah, Ugarit.
So, let's delve into what we had to endure and what we had to watch.
Oh, it was Jack Hunter and the Lost Treasure of Ugarit.
Yes.
And that's the end of the episode.
No. Before we actually delve in, let's kind of discuss what we thought we were going to get with Jack Hunter. I was the one who discovered Jack Hunter. It was found at an op shop, and it is a rip-off of Indiana Jones. He has the hat, he has like the satchel, he has the shirt. It looks like Indiana Jones. No whip. They were very, very brave not to put in a whip.
He does have a gun at one point, at least.
He does use guns, unlike Indiana Jones.
And there was
wait a moment. Does Indiana use guns? Yes, he does.
That's like the
That was one of the
scene.
gags. There was a line in there where he mentioned like he didn't want to become a teacher, and that's
Because
different from
they don't get to adventure.
yeah, that's different from Indiana Jones. He's a professor.
He's a teacher. He's his teacher, pretty much. I thought we were gonna get a interesting European rip-off of Indiana Jones because it's like Jack Hunter. And all the names on it are European in some ways. So the main guy is
Sergey.
Sergey. So Ivan Sergey is Jack.
Honestly, that's two first names, really.
So is it his real name?
I don't know.
His name is
It's
Billy
like,
Bob.
It sounds like you're trying to come up with like a really like stereotypical Russian name. Like, I am Ivan Sergey.
And I thought we were going to get a very cheesemo, very cheap rip-off of Indiana Jones presented to us by a bunch of sleazy Eastern Europeans. I was kind of right, but not really. Like, it wasn't... It's more sleazy Syrians, if anything. It was a movie. At least. That's a step up for us. We've watched ones that we wouldn't consider real movies, so... Yay?
And again, that's not an insult to them. It's just that some of them actually aren't movies. They're just, straight to DVD things or they're OVAs.
Yeah, so I was expecting an Indiana Jones ripoff. Kinda got it, kinda didn't. Bartek, when this was selected from the box, what were your thoughts?
I do remember you having mentioned this film a few times before, because I would again remind audiences that I do not sleep close to the mystery box, I'll put it that way. It is not housed in my vicinity, so I do not have the luxury of inspecting or appraising it every now and then. I only see it when I come to the studio to do recordings, and even then I don't go, hey Ryan, I just need to check the box quickly. When it was picked, I was trying to remember some things you might have mentioned about it, because this is the second movie in a row where it's something you've been looking forward to.
Yeah.
There is one thing in the box that I'm really looking forward to that we haven't picked yet. And I was thinking like, there was something weird about this that Ryan said, and I guess it was the Eastern European thing. Yeah. And I thought, okay, so it is gonna be a bit weird. But then I looked at some of the names, and yeah, there's Ivan Sergey.
Yeah.
Very Russian name, but then you got like Joan Kelly and stuff like that, and then the director's name is like Terry Cunningham or something, and I was like, and that made me think like, I guess this'll just be, a generic kind of, not rip-off, but Indiana Jones style adventure film, and really that's what it was.
That's what you got. Rachel, what about you, having selected it?
Yes, I also was anticipating Indiana Jones aspect, but it came out being like more of a crossover between Indiana Jones and the Mummy for me.
Yeah, it really was kind of like Brendan Fraser's The Mummy at points. Now, I would like to quickly talk about the cover of this. It has a lot of aspects that aren't in the film on the cover. It has our lead hero standing with the magical staff, the magical MacGuffin of the film. And it has, him in a doorway, or like of an ancient building kind of thing. And behind him, and behind him's like, a bunch of like overlaid images of like the girl's face, him punching the bad guy in the face, the girl on a horse. But the best part is him jumping at an Egyptian god that never features in the movie. Isn't that right? We never see Egyptian god in the movie. It's like giant Anubis looking creature. he's jumping towards it. We never see that in the movie.
Yeah, I do like on the spine of the cover. It's the nice little
Him riding a horse.
shot, which is also on the back.
So
they really got some good use out of creating that graphic.
Oh yeah, they got that one shot and they're like, we gotta use it. It shows Ivan at his best.
You're right, it does have like the jackal Anubis-like head on it.
It's like 12 feet tall, and he's jumping at it from the air. We never see that in the movie.
The closest thing in the film is like a person with a cloak and a golden mask.
Maybe that got moved to the sequel, and they just didn't think to remove it from the cover.
Oh yeah, because this is part something in the Jack Hunter series, because this is a series of movies, allegedly. Yeah, he's jumping towards an Egyptian god, so I also thought there was going to be some mystical elements in there, but kinda, but like gods. I thought there was going to be literal gods turning up.
I can't say I was expecting that.
Now, Rachel, could you tell us about how the film opens? Because it's quite a thrilling opening to a movie.
So much has happened since then. But
The keyword is museum.
The keyword is France.
Yes, he is in a French museum.
Who he?
Jack Hunter.
Ooh.
Has broken into a museum, stealthily walks past a security guard who is eating popcorn from a clear plastic
forgot about
container
him.
that the actors clearly made some distinctive choices to try and make him stand out in the film, which is essentially being a caricature of somebody with a mental disability of some kind.
I genuinely thought he was autistic, like special needs. I don't know what his deal was. The actor probably chose this, or the director went, "Hey, give this guy a bone. He's got some severe issues going on. Let's give him a role in the movie."
You got to have the, I guess, first adversary of the film be a bit more on the dumb side.
You know,
But
I want
I
would agree with that, but it feels wrong. Could you imagine, like, if Indiana Jones, the Raiders of the Lost Ark, his first nemesis was a retarded security guard? Like,
well,
that's
Ryan, you can chillax because the second nemesis is a lot more intense.
Oh, you mean old guy with gun?
Yes, but before we talk about old guy with gun, why was he breaking into a museum?
To steal essentially a religious artifact that had a poem written in an ancient Syrian alphabet.
Well, I don't want to tread on your toes there, but that actually wasn't his intent. He was there to take photos of this tablet, and then he dropped his camera, and he just went, whoops!
He didn't drop it intentionally.
No, he first dropped it, and then the bodyguard came in and was like, what was that noise? But he was speaking in French. By the way, this film has no subtitles till the end, though.
One line is given a subtitle.
I think there were a few, but it was definitely like the same people, and it wasn't really conversations.
So he drops his...
It was command.
Our fucking hero drops his camera like an idiot. And then the security guard comes after him, and through the whole fight sequence, he's just trying to get his camera. I actually thought that was clever. I was like, this is kind of cute. He's trying to get the camera, and the security guard's like, I'm retarded, and smacks
the beautiful
him.
rug slip.
The classic fight sequence. For some reason, in a museum, in the private section, they have a rug.
No, that's back outside, because he goes through the secret bookcase into the secret room, and then in the vault, which he already has the code for, so we don't get a code breaking sequence. We just get him getting it out. He takes the photos, goes to leave, gets captured, his camera gets thrown off, and actually does properly smash.
Oh, that was the best part, yeah.
We do get a code-breaking sequence much later, though.
It isn't a real jewel heisty type movie without a code breaking sequence.
It's a code.
Can you break it?
I'm sure as hell try.
He travels after that fight sequence in France where he steals it. He manages to travel back to America.
No issues with customs.
Well, it's okay because he's Jack Hunter. They all know who he is. He travels back to America, but that's cool and all. That's cool that he's traveled back to America, but I think we really have to cover the third country that's really important in this, Syria, which I think featured one of Bartek's favorite duos ever in a film, which was Sexy Lady and Old Man.
It was, sassy lady who...
In a tank top.
Yeah, who spoke in a very, I guess for us Westerners, clear voice to understand.
Yeah.
And then man with, thick Syrian accent and also maybe a slight lisp?
Who knows?
I don't know. It almost felt like his accent had an accent. The conversations between them, it just didn't feel balanced.
Who are they?
Who are they?
Yeah.
Who are they? Ryan, this duo who, when you say duo, that means they're going to be together for the whole film and,
100%.
they're going to be inseparable like twins.
They don't only have 3 scenes together in the movie, right?
Yeah,
they have more than that.
Ryan, this duo is main female lead and guy who's in a few scenes.
It's the mentor figure.
It's her mentor guy, and they're in Syria. What are they doing in Syria? What's their whole ordeal that they're going through?
I could just say if they're Syrians and leave it at that, but they are... but... That's funny.
I didn't expect you to say that. What's their ordeal? They're Syrians. Close the book on that one. Fucking case closed. Bartek solved the Syrian crisis. What's their problem? They're Syrians. Bam. Great.
Well,
I'm very proud of you.
Well, no, I was answering why they're in Syria. It's like, Ryan's Australian. Why is he in Australia?
No, yeah, I'm in Australia. That's because my ordeal is that I have to solve the crisis of man who's digging up he's digging up to find a buried city, and I got papers from the museum guys in Syria to say, no archaeological digs in my country, motherfucking blonde bad guy who's German, we find out later, but he's Russian, but German, and he's all like, fine, I got a mysterious accent that keeps changing through movie, but I'm gonna kill all my guys, like, all these poor Syrian guys that are digging, I'm gonna kill them all.
Well, there's a rat, Ryan.
Because there's a rat. Someone in his group of Syrians is a rat because they told the museum guys, insatiable duo old man, sexy lady, that this guy's up to no good. How does he know this? Who knows? And that led to probably my favorite what the fuck moment in the entire film. It's like, in the film you have the bad guy. Bad guy, he's a rival archaeologist and adventurer type guy. He's basically national treasure.
Yeah, he's kind of like a foil to our Jack Hunter character.
He's Jack Hunter evil and blonde and German, allegedly. And his whole thing is like, I got a rat in my organization. Ooh.
He doesn't have a Russian accent.
He keeps changing his accent.
I don't know, I remember being pretty German-y throughout.
Really? I think we only associated as German once he said Auf Wiedersehen and he walked away. That's the only time in the movie where I went, oh, he's supposed to be German.
I know that's when we realized it, but I feel like he was at least consistent throughout. Like, the only thing that confused us was that he did speak Russian at one point.
No, he spoke Russian immediately after he spoke German, and it was like,
yeah, because he's like in league with some Russians or something.
Who they leave as a secret for the next movie, because it's like, oh, you don't know who my boss is? And then you're like, no, I don't. I guess I have to wait till the next movie to find out who Albert's evil boss is. Hedging my bets? Putin. Just saying. But the whole bad guy thing is, he's got a rat in his organization, and we see like the little Syrian guy in the background be like, I don't know who Rat is, no, don't kill my man, because he's like, I just have to kill everyone. And he kills everyone, and then that guy runs away because he couldn't save them, and he runs away, and he just, like, the bad guy looks to his right-hand man guy and goes, look, it's the rats, and just points at the guy running away for his life, and they just snipe him down, and I'm just like, that doesn't prove that he was the rat. I mean, we as the audience know he was the rat because he was the one in the, the one guy we met. But it doesn't prove that to him that he's the rat because it's like, oh, you just massacred all of these people. Pretty much anyone who's a survivor is a rat if you really want to go down that route. Like, of course he's a rat if you want to think like that. He's running away from you. If he was the rat...
He's the only living, suspect left.
It's like... What's his rules? If he wasn't the rat, like in his brain, if that guy came up to him and was like, "Thank you for killing my men," he would turn to his right-hand man and go, "Definitely not the rat. Definitely not the rat. He just thanked me. He didn't run away from me because he wanted to live.
It's like that whole...
He's not the rat."
It's like that whole paradox of when you say, "I am not X," and then you say something like, "Oh, that's what someone who is X would say." You don't ask the question of, then what would someone who's not X say?
There goes the rat. Burned him. The hyenas will have a feast tonight.
So they have this very long, intricate scene where we are seeing the archaeological dig.
Yeah.
And they are going through the process. So we do have some attachment to these random Syrian men. And then all of a sudden there's an important discovery, which was done in a uselessly intricate way.
Oh, yeah,
And
they
that
find
was-
like a rock.
That was left behind. I thought that was going to be part of the plate. Like, because
Part
that
of
that they have the big stone
The
that
tablet.
has the poem on it, but it's missing chunks out of it.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was going to be a missing letter so that they needed Lippmann later on so that they could figure out the last clue.
That's too smart. That's actually too smart.
Or it could be in a sequel.
No, because he's already got it.
He left that behind as well. He left that
behind in the
dig.
explosion and shit. Yeah. So, fuck, I didn't even think about that. Wow, that's pretty great. So, we leave Syria and we go to merry old America, in
California.
which we cut to old man who looks like Ridley Scott lecturing to a bunch of kids.
What was it? Frederick
Who
Schaefer?
are
Frederick
awfully-
Schaefer.
They are really engaged in that lecture.
Well, no, I will disagree. They're more engaged in that one ginger kid who's like, "Yo, teacher, what's your name again?" Schaefer. Frederick Schaefer. What a great name, by the way.
Call me Schaefer.
Call me Schaefer. And his accents are
yeah,
all over the shop.
Yeah, this one kid sounded like he was gonna fuck with him and make like a joke at his expense, but he was genuine. He just sounded like a bit of a
He just had a jerk voice.
a bit of a twerp.
But I feel like they laugh in a way that makes it feel like they're on the joke.
It's
Yeah.
an in
And
joke.
the joke is about the content. So if they didn't understand what he was talking about, they wouldn't have actually found it funny. It would have been them laughing at him.
Yeah, but on that note, is there anything funny about him?
Who, Frederick Schaefer?
Yeah.
He looks like Ridley Scott. I found that funny.
Yeah, just that.
Nothing as a student I would find. I mean, I found it if I was a student, I would find it particularly funny that he answered his mobile phone halfway through his own lecture and then called off the lecture. I would have found that amazingly amusing. Like I would have, because that's what happens. And then he leaves because Jack Hunter's phoned him up pretending to be a Russian man. And when I say pretending, I mean he's literally going like, "It is I got pizza for you." And I'm like, oh, we got his real voice. I'm glad that we got Ivan's real voice in this, because Ivan looks like the most, like, Jack Hunter is just such a thick Eastern European looking dude.
Ivan Sergei is an American actor known for his work in television. His best-known roles are Dr. Peter Winslow in Crossing Jordan and Henry Mitchell in Charmed.
Mr. Schaefer is Jack's mentor. He steals the artifact for Mr. Schaefer. Mr. Schaefer's like, "I wanted a photo," and you're like, he's like, "Sorry, I stole it." And he's like, "Oh, okay. I want to
Just
look
don't
at
tell
this.
me how.
Just don't tell me how. I want this tablet so I can figure out where this buried treasure is of this lost city or whatever." And that's what he's also teaching to the kids because he's obsessed with it. And we know he's gonna die, or at least I did. You could just feel it because Jack's all like, "This isn't a map," because the tablet's a poem, and the guy's like, "This poem's clearly a map. Listen to it." And he reads the poem out in his weird accents, and it's clearly a map. And Jack's like, "I've done a lot of map hunting and searching in my life, and that's not a map. It's a..." And he said poem in a weird way, like
Poem or something?
everyone in this movie says poem like poem.
Yeah.
And I was just lost. I was like, there's a little bit where
I
I was like, oh, it's poem.
Yeah, I wasn't lost,
Ah.
but then when you brought it up, I'm like, oh, I can see why Ryan's confused. It sounds like they're saying poem.
Schaefer is his mentor, his hero. He's the reason that Jack must go on this quest because he gets assassinated by some evil, mysterious forces. Surprise, it's the German guy and his crew. But before he goes out like a fucking champ, Schaefer, because he looks like Ridley Scott and he just gives this amazing scene in which he's just ripping Jack a new asshole about not joining him on the adventure, and that's where we were all pissing ourselves laughing at his accent and their acting. I just couldn't get over it. I love acting. I'm an actor. I love all the little tricks that people use, and Jack Hunter did this one physical hand gesture in which he kind of did like an awkward like fist pump kind of action to describe that, hey, I've got a life too, fist pump. And it was just like, what does that mean?
He's grabbing
His life
and pulling it towards him.
Now we leave tomorrow and make sure you bring everything this time.
I'm sorry.
Syria, we leave for Syria at once.
No, Frederick, I'm not going to Syria. You can go to Syria. This is your life. I've got my life. I've got things to do.
Yes, I know of those things.
Don't start that again. I did what you asked. I've got a flight to catch. I leave for Florida tomorrow morning.
I can't believe you're not the least bit curious to see where this goes. We found the clue!
I'm curious, but I don't have time to go traipsing around the desert because I'm curious about some poem.
This is the real deal, Jack!
And, during this scene where the library's at night and he's all alone until the assassin comes in, well, what's Jack Hunter doing?
Almost getting laid.
He meets the female of another female in the movie who's like...
Yeah, he technically met her at the start of the library scene.
Schaefer's right-hand woman.
She's previously known to him.
Yeah.
Yes,
They
Schaefer's
already
right-hand
have
woman.
a relationship.
Schaefer's right-hand woman, they almost have sex, but then he feels weird. He's like, no, and she's just like, you promised Schaefer that you'd go with him, and now you're not doing it. You're bad, Jack. And he's like, oh god.
This is no longer about us almost having sex.
This is no longer about me not wanting to have sex with you for some mysterious reason. Oh.
Which there is no dialogue to hint at.
Well,
like there's no like flirty conversation that they have. Their actions portray that they are sexually attracted to each other by the cut to them making out.
Oh, come on.
But-
Before that cut, he says, I'm Jack Hunter, and then it cuts to them about to bang. That's enough chemistry right there.
we should point out that, we do have an Australian copy of this movie, and it's rated M, which of the 5 main rating systems, this one's right in the middle.
Yeah.
Mature audiences, although
15 plus.
Although MA is mature audiences, but yeah.
This is just mature.
The single thing that's written down as classification is just the word violence.
So, Schaefer is, luckily for our hero, reading over this map of Syria, and he circles the area where the treasure is, and then he gets shot by a guy with a beard.
But it's just the name of an entire range of mountains. It's
Yeah, but
not
he
even
circles the specific mountain. Because, but Rachel, he read in the poem before
The eyes.
the fiery gaze of her eyes, and with his accent, it didn't sound like gaze as I gazed at Bartek. It sounded like gaze. Her fiery gaze, and I'm just like, I can't wait for the bit in the movie where they're in the desert and they look over and there's just like a bunch of flaming homosexuals. When Schaefer eventually got murdered, Jack's like, I must go to Syria. He goes there on a nice little I love those shots in movies where they've filmed like a little toy airplane and they overlay it with the map of the globe spinning, you know what I mean? And it's spinning and it lands in Syria as the plane dips out of frame, and you're like, oh, they landed in Syria. I'm so
There
glad.
are so many
love
scenes
it.
where they overlay maps, but I think my favorite one is later in the film where they've done it with the blood-stained map, which is the map that they no longer have. Like, the bad guys have that map at that stage, but we're following
Our
the
heroes.
good guys.
Well, it's because this is great filmmaking, that's why. So we get to Syria, and we meet the best character in any film ever made, which is Tariq?
Was it Tariq?
Taruk or
I think
Tariq?
it's Taruk.
Whenever you need me, Tariq never sleeps. Whatever, whenever, wherever.
I got it.
And then we're all wrong. It's Tafreak, because he's Tafreaking amazing. That's why. Because he's the Ashate of the what was it, the tourism?
He's been sent from the
He's from the
Bureau of
yeah.
Tourism.
Which throws us all for a loop because he's expecting someone from the Bureau of Archaeology or some bullshit.
Which is the chick.
Which is Syrian beauty tank top lady teamed up with old guy, but old guy not there.
Old guy gone.
Where's Ali?
They are going to meet old guy.
Old guy is the only other person to know about the tablet, so he must be the guy who got Schaefer killed, obviously. But she's angry about that. She snaps her flip phone in the airport, and she's all like, I'm wearing a tank top at an airport, and I don't like you, Jack Hunter. I like Schaefer. And he's like, Schaefer died. Now give me the location where Ali is. And she's all like, you don't get to meet him till tomorrow. I know I could make you meet him now, but I won't.
And if you do anything bad, I'm going to call the military or whatever.
The Syrian special forces on
Yeah.
you. And you don't fuck with them. They don't say fuck, but it's like, you don't mess with them because if you do, you're dead.
And
I'm
then while
"Ooh."
we're sweating and shitting ourselves, Turuk comes and lightens the mood.
Complaining about how heavy the luggage is.
Oh, he's always complaining or very overjoyed. There's no in between. You don't see like placid him. We don't see him
No.
like content. We always see him being like, oh look, my brother over there, he owns a shop over there, blah, 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 or blah, 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 I had a dream, blah, blah, blah. It's like he's always rambling incessantly about like, oh
has
it's
a
so
lot
hard
of-
being me.
Has so much energy to him,
Yeah.
which is why it's so great to see him playing with those kids.
Oh, later on in the movie, he plays with a bunch of kids. Bartek described him as Sacha Baron Cohen.
He's a Sacha Baron Cohen character.
I described him more as Mr. Bean, but in the Middle East. I made a bet that he would die in the movie, and he did not die.
Yeah, I challenged you on that almost instantly. I'm like, this guy, he's not dying.
And Rachel put forward the idea that he's a double agent, which the film then proceeds to run with to the very end of the movie, that he could be a bad guy. We don't
It does
fully
entertain
know.
the idea.
I mean, our main hero doesn't like him because he suspects him of being a bad guy throughout the whole movie.
Yeah,
He's like,
but then, and we're getting ahead of ourselves again, but then the main girl does mention, like, no, he was talking to his wife, and then the phone tapping was how they found out.
Because bad guys follow them throughout the movie. It's like, how do these bad guys know where we are? It's like, the bad guys even say, we tapped your phone, idiots. And he's like, it must be Tariq. That's literally... She even says, did you get brain damage in the last 30 minutes or something?
What's wrong with you? Didn't you hear Lebanese been intercepting our calls? Did your IQ drop in the last 30 minutes?
We're in Syria. We're at the airport with Tariq and Syrian girl, and they drive off, and they take us to, like, a bunch of market stalls to go meet
They are going to
Ali's contact.
No, they're going to Ali's antique show.
Where his contact has, like, a message.
Yeah, where he's left something for them that they have to collect.
And what is it?
It ends up being a scroll, but there's a note from him that's hidden in the scroll.
And the scroll is also a map.
Yes.
A map that leads them to the treasure. And they're like, is this a fake map? Was this? I don't know.
The map itself was, like, geographically correct, but he'd marked the wrong place on it. Like, the treasure wasn't located underneath the lake that had been created by a dam in the 70s.
Classic Syria.
It was in the mountains.
But, Rachel, bigger question. Do we have an epic fight sequence during this simple scroll getting?
Somebody could call it epic, yes.
Well, I thought you were going to call out the whole fight thing, because, yeah, there is fighting in it, but it's also a kind of chase sequence as well.
Yeah, because the bad guys keep getting the scroll, and then they have to get the scroll from them, and then the bad guys have to get the scroll from them, and it's a continuous getting of scrolls.
Let's generalize it to, we get an action sequence.
Yes, we get a lovely action sequence in which a guy punches a wall. That was great.
And there was one...
And he reacts realistically. Like, he's a big, fit, monster-looking dude. in a turban and all this.
He's
and,
definitely
with a
not
big
one
beard,
to mess with. Yeah.
And he just punches a wall. It's like, oh my god, my head!
To be clear,
It was
he's
great.
trying to punch Jack, but then Jack dodges and he hits a wall.
I'm not saying that this guy's a wall punching enthusiast. It's not like this guy's like casually
Clearly
just like.
wasn't prepared.
It's not like this guy's always punching walls. It's not like this guy's constantly like, I just want to punch a wall every moment I can. No, Jack tricked him into punching walls.
Possibly one of the greatest parts of this sequence is Jack runs out of the inside of the building and he's on like the balcony. And there's a guy who... Alright, this is another guy who tries to punch him and Jack dodges. But,
editing.
Yes, editing. This film, this episode, editing is our word of the day. Basically, these two are kind of facing each other. Like, the momentum of his punch would still, like, send him forward, just walking across the balcony.
Yeah.
But somehow, he misses the punch, and then the next shot is... Either the next shot or 2 shots later, he's falling off the balcony. Our understanding of what happens is that the momentum of his missed punch sent him flying over the balcony.
Yes, but I took it as Jack kind of grabbed his arm and forced him off the balcony.
Which makes more sense, but
the editing is what I would call stylized, because it allows you to choose what happened. There's a lot of editing moments of characters falling off. I will note this. The editing, for the most part's decent. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sure, it feels like someone got Windows Movie Maker and edited it together, but any scene involving people falling off of things is so incomprehensible that you have to rewind the film and question how they fell off the things. We'll get to a famous falling off sequence later, but there's a couple of times in movies where people fall off things and you just have to go, wait, what? Like Bart's like saying he fell off because of his own momentum of missing the punch, and I'm like, no, Jack must have flipped him off.
The keyword being must have.
You choose. That's the film. You choose how this works. So we have that great little action sequence in which they get the scroll. They don't get the scroll. They get the scroll. They don't get the scroll. And then they get in Tariq's car and they're like, drive Tariq or Taruk. And he's just like, aye, aye, aye.
He's singing,
They do
isn't he?
accidentally crash a wedding before they
I
get
do,
there.
yes.
Like, during the ceremony, by the looks of things, because the bride and the groom are under some kind of altar, and they crashed into the wedding cake, but you don't actually see the cake. You just say cake splattered on the 2 actors' faces.
Yeah. The Syrian bride, she looks at them and she's like so pissed off, and they're just like, you look beautiful.
Oh, and Ryan, during this sequence, you kept pointing out
Extras.
extra details. I was going to hint towards the extras with my line extra details, but you beat me to it.
Extras in this movie are the type in which they filmed in a public location and they didn't have like paid, or for the most part, paid acting extras. They just had people who are working in market stalls and stuff. So you have a bunch of elderly people and or people smoking who notice the camera and look at the camera like, what the fuck's going on?
My personal favourite
Great.
was the woman that was clearly the opposite of that, where she was walking with her child and trying to not look at the camera and trying to like get her child out of this situation because she clearly had no real clue what was going on, and she like pinched her headscarf forward so like the camera was fully out of her view and you could see less of her face.
Brilliant. I didn't even notice her.
Yeah, I think I didn't quite notice as many looking at the camera extras. There was one extra I noticed too, and this isn't really super funny or anything, but they had like a distinct like stripy red white shirt, and they were walking across the street during one shot, and then when it cut to another camera angle, they were a bit further back, so I assumed that one was a paid extra who was asked what to do.
We get up to a portion of the film that I want to call actors get to relax portion, because after
you always
the
have
action
downtime.
sequence, we get them just sitting around in hotels for a little while, eating food and laying in beds and phoning people on the phone.
Belly dances.
And belly dancing, and nothing really of note happens there. There's like
But
a
that's the
piss-weak
proper-
action sequence.
That's the proper introduction to the villain that happens then. And we get the introduction.
Well, for us, we already know who he is because he killed people.
But that's the confirmation that he is German.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
he's-
yes, because he turns up at the restaurant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the explanation of the Russian mafia being set of people that are involved.
That's true. We get Russian mafia being introduced, and we have a piss weak action sequence in which people try to attack Jack in his bedroom, but he just disarms them and they run away like a bunch of cowards. She's knocking on the door like, what's this obvious action sequence going on? But she's just like, what's happening, Jack? And then he opens up the door and she's like, what's going on in here? It's like, what do you think? A crazy sex
a nice
scene? Like,
quippy line comes up after that.
There was a great part just before that where they're running out of the balcony and Jack throws like a knife or something at them and it smashes the glass.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh shit, I smashed the glass. And then she knocks and he's like about to open the door. Then it cuts
back to the
It
glass.
cuts just to the glass. It breaks, and that's the shot. It's like, oh,
yeah, it's like, oh, everything's fully.
Was that for like continuity or something?
No, because they obviously the director took that shot and they wanted to keep that shot in, but they couldn't fit it in where it originally would have been.
Yeah,
so they're like, we just got to cut back to it.
It's like how
I'm not wasting that fucking shot. That shot cost $40 million.
It's like how in the action scene before, where they were running through the market, it sometimes just cut to random people looking.
Well, you got to show the world. But it's like, in that world, there was a piece of glass that fell over.
Yeah. Well, it broke.
So she knocked on the door, and then there's a quippy line, you said? I can't remember what the quippy lines are.
No, like, when she's asked, well, what happened here? And he's like, oh, just an excellent turn-down service.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Jack's full of quips, by the way. We knew he was going to be a snarky guy because his first line of dialogue is, hey, I need a receipt for that, or something like that. It's like, I don't have a receipt for that.
It's when she stops being surly, he stops being as quippy.
Which is, thank God. But then Tariq just starts being more Tariqy about it all, which is just fucking great.
So if this film is supposed to be
Indiana Jones,
does that mean that we should be comparing Mr. Ivan Sergei to Mr. Harrison Ford?
Yeah, look, Harrison Ford's not an actor I particularly love or praise often, but one thing he does have, and in his earlier career, especially more so than his current career, is he has charm up the wazoo. Harrison Ford is charming. Ivan, where's the charm, Ive?
A similarity is that in particular scenes, both actors do appear to be struggling to remember what is meant to be going on and what their lines are.
Get the fuck out of my house.
They kind of go driving for a little bit, and they get driven off the road, and they're like
heading out into the desert.
And they're like, who's doing this to us? My favorite bit of that was the bad guys never shot at them. They shot up in the air, so it's not like they wanted to kill them.
They didn't even pretend to be aiming at them.
Well, in the defense of the bad guys, Albert, who is called Albert, but sometimes Ivan will pronounce it Ilbert. He doesn't want to kill Jack. He needs Jack because Jack is the real information. Jack's got all the info because Albert gets all of his info from intel, from wiretapping, phone tapping, and spies that he has around. Hence, Tariq, the comedic relief of the movie, Tariq is considered to be a spy, a mole, a double agent. We don't know if he is or isn't for a good majority of the film. We assume he isn't, but Jack doesn't. He hates him for a good portion of this movie for no reason, other than he just has a slight theory that he could be it, even though he's proven time and time again that he's not.
But he's mistrustful of everybody.
Not her.
And he'll drive.
And he drives, which has a great little sequence when they're in the desert, they're being chased off the road. He's all like, don't worry, I drive, it's what I do.
I will not fall asleep.
And he cut to him being asleep, and he's asleep for the whole entire chase sequence. Like, they're crashing into things, and shots are being fired, and cars are being, driven off the road onto mountaintops, and all this kind of crazy shit. And he's asleep, and then he wakes up at the end, give us the comedic punch. He's like, oh boy, I had a crazy dream that we were being chased.
It was a nightmare, Ryan.
Nightmares. They're like dreams, but scary.
And his assumption was that Jack had the same nightmare, even though Jack was driving. So
he doesn't know that. He just woke up. like he could have thought, Jack, you had a microsleep, but you were in that nightmare, right? Microsleeps, they're very dangerous.
Do you know one of the worst things that can happen while you're driving? This. Scientists call it a microsleep. Big problem. When you start to get drowsy, there's no way to know when you'll slip into one of these microsleeps. Bigger problem. At 100 k's, you travel over 100 metres every 4 seconds. So if you nod off, you could end up here, or here, or here. So don't ignore the early warning signs. When they start, it's time to stop, revive, survive.
Them being chased off the road by bad guys with guns leads to them being chased off the road into more bad guys with guns. But are they bad guys?
Well, Ryan, they get saved by the bad guys with guns, but remember...
From bad guys with guns, right?
Well, like I said, they are still bad guys.
Yeah, but they get chased into the desert to meet a bunch of people living in the desert with guns, and they seem like bad guys. But are they bad guys?
We are led to believe so because they look like bad guys with guns.
But then the hero says, these guys are weak shots, and then Tariq's like, maybe they're just warning you. And they were warning them, don't come near us, we've got guns.
Yep. And we knew that that Jack is a good shot with a gun because he used both hands on his pistol.
And Tariq doesn't know how to use guns. I actually thought he was going to shoot himself in the face. I thought that was going to be the joke.
He's aiming at himself.
Yeah, it looked creepy. Didn't he have a line of, like, he's familiar with guns, just not using them?
No, he's always got a gun on him, but he doesn't know how to use them because since I would imagine, I'm not an expert, but I would imagine Syria being Syria, I would imagine that all government officials would have guns on them just because of the turbulent environment that is Syria, and him being on a case in which he knows that there are armed individuals, I'd imagine that he would be armed with a gun at all times. They get chased in the desert by the bad guys, attacked by more bad guys, and then are saved by the bad guys.
Yep.
Tariq ran away straight into the bad guys, but they didn't capture him somehow because even they're like, where is he?
He's got the power of editing choices.
Editing cuts to them at night. Our two heroes tied up to a pole. I love that in movies. You know, in movies where it's like the bad guys have a desert base or something and they always like tie them to poles. Like, I imagine that's what would happen, but it's
the
like...
tent pole and it's with duct tape.
In this scene, our bad guy, Albert Littman, comes up to them and he has to make a deal with Jack.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
He does.
What's that deal? You don't remember, do you?
Jack gives him the information
that he needs.
Which is
I remember
the name of the mountains.
Right.
Because
where the actual treasure is.
Littman threatens to kill her, and she's just like, "Oh, good on you, Jack." And he's just like, "Hey, I just bought us time."
Now, in her defense, Jack made a wager of, I get 50% of all the profits and the girl, and the bad guy's like, sure, of course, that makes complete sense.
I am not in a position to argue because you bring up this event that is clearly from our shared past that I am ashamed of.
Oh, Peru.
Oh, yes.
Remember Peru?
I remember that line.
Didn't deliver.
And we know the bad guy had an incident in Peru because he gulps. You know, he goes...
It's the most emotion you see from him.
No, he has a lot of joy when he shoots the rat.
Oh, yeah.
Tariq saves them because they didn't find him and he has a knife.
Yeah.
Where did he get this knife? Did the government supply him with knives? Then they escape and they have the wandering through the desert, you know, they do Lawrence of Arabia for a while.
Yes,
It brought flashbacks of Meteor Apocalypse, just wandering about with shots at night, shots in day. And it led to the the
conversation, the discussion.
The breakdown, I want to call it. It led to where we had to rewind the movie several times, pause it,
4 or 5 times,
freeze frame it, discuss geography of scene construction and literal geography of land because our main girl falls over when wandering in the desert off a cliffside.
And it's too sudden to be natural.
We have to keep rewinding it, trying to figure out, no, wait, this makes sense? No, it doesn't make sense. I was trying to argue that it did because I had belief in the filmmakers. Because it hadn't been that incompetent up until that point. Like, yes, you had the weird...
The balcony thing
but it was kind of like, you could put 1 and 1 together to equal 2. But this one's like, hey, you put 5 and 19 plus minus 1, and you got this and this and this, like throwing all this stuff at you. You're like, God, I don't know. I don't know.
To put it in very simple terms, it looks like they're climbing, a rock that's maybe half to a quarter of a meter high and, just getting up higher. But then all of a sudden, as it looks like they're just climbing up, they're at the top of this rock that's much, much higher.
It's
like
a cliff.
2 or 3 meters. Yeah, like basically a little cliff. And she just trips backwards, and it's like, this does not compute with what we were expecting of this geographical spot from the last shot. Because the last shot ends with them like still walking, and that shot begins with them still walking. So it naturally, us as a viewing audience would expect this to mean this is a continuation, just a different camera angle, but all of a sudden it's like they're in a completely different place.
That place leads them to Syrian Paul Giamatti.
You like this character, Ryan.
Kids, I love to play with them, That's why I live for. Sorry?
This whole wandering through the desert leads them to a random Syrian guy and his family who live out in the desert. No mum in sight, just him, and he's so polite. I was expecting him to be a bad guy. I was expecting everyone to be a bad guy. I was expecting him to turn around and be like, I work for Albert. But instead he reminded me of a Syrian version of Paul Giamatti, but nice, because Paul Giamatti's usually an asshole.
He is hospitable, he's just very polite. He's
constantly offering them food.
He accommodates them, like, perfectly.
Even Jack's like, well, Syrians are known for their hospitality, but he's saying it in an untrusting way, like,
That's
Syrians.
a referral back to the scene in the antiques shop, because he looks at the guy that eventually attacks them really suspiciously, and she's just like, Syrians are known for being nice and hospitable.
For a thing that I thought was going to be Indiana Jones, I didn't expect so much playing with kids in it. It was just like running around and children, and he described like this game that the kids are playing, and that leads them to the discovery of, oh my god, Schaefer realized that the poem was a map, and the map leads to the mountains that he already circled on the actual map. My god, the treasure's in the mountain. Like, I didn't realize that was supposed to be a reveal. I just thought, oh, this is what we already know, right? You're trying to get to this mountain, right? It leads them to the mountaintop because they say goodbye to Paul, and they say goodbye to Reek because they're like, you, go get help. They have a nice little gallop to the mountain.
So they see the eyes, so they eventually go up to the eyes, and then it gets too hectic.
This is the fiery gaze, was it?
Yes, the fiery gaze, because they notice it. Was it at the sunrise or the sunset? They see the sun.
Sunset, and then they go up at sunrise.
Yeah, and then when they get closer, that's when they figure out where the mouth is, and then they accidentally go into the mouth because convenient dust storm appears out of nowhere. And then that's when we get the magical use of matches and a lantern that very conveniently doesn't wound anybody when it should have exploded. They are searching through this cavern.
With the paper mache walls.
Yeah, and it's when they've looked at all of the animals that are nicely done into the walls with paper mache that looks like it's been done by children.
Yeah, by Paul Giamatti's kids, it looks like.
But they're not so much ingrained as it's sticking out, so it's like they've been carved around.
Into. And then they figure out that it's the bull symbol, step forward, and then they slide down this kind of chute
but
that
you're forgetting...
makes it feel like it's
a
going
good thing
to
they
be
didn't run into
trap.
scorpions or anything like that.
And he was carrying
no
the
CGI
lantern,
scorpions.
And then the lantern just poof has disappeared because they do not have it when they get down the bottom, but you don't see anything happen with it, but it would have been dropped when they went down, or it would have still been in his hand.
It might have gone up his butt. You don't know. It could have slid up his butt.
Editing choices.
But you forgot the most important part. There was a bunch of CGI scorpions, and he just flicked them off himself, and she was afraid because scorpions. And he's just like, nah, this is the worst of it. Get over it. She's like, you're right.
It's
and they
really nonchalant.
And they proceed to walk into a nest of scorpions.
Scorpions are more scary than a surprise slippery slide. It apparently stops lanterns from exploding.
We leave Happy-Go-Lucky Fun Slide that was entered by Scorpion Cove, as I would call it.
Yeah. Well, no, because they go through Scorpion Cove
to Happy-Go-Lucky Fun Slide.
No, and then it's the room with all of the other animals.
All right, yeah, puzzle.
They have to go past the scorpions to get to the second room to pick which doorway they want to choose.
And then they go down to puzzle room.
Yeah.
Which
is alphabet.
It's just basically the, what's it called? The Ugarit... What's the name?
It's the ancient Syrian alphabet.
Ancient Syrian alphabet, and they have to spell the name of the woman who's mentioned as their god figure or in the poem. And Bartek described this as a bad game. I described it as unfair.
I was making it a joke that like, oh, this is bad game design because you can lose before... Because the threat of the consequence for failing this challenge is death because the walls are closing in on you and they're going to crush you. And that's like, oh, you lost because time was up. But because of the buttons that you have to press to pass this challenge are on the walls that you can't access once the walls get closer to you.
But we don't know that there's only one option.
We don't.
Because there's more tiles than there are letters in the alphabet.
Because they said that their alphabet's like our alphabet. That's where our alphabet came from.
Yeah,
So
he
only
managed
26
to
letters.
Line up letters to letters.
So even if you missed one wall, you have the two other walls that are closing in on you. And then we discover there's a fourth wall that was not there before because
that was where they walked in.
They walked in, and then another wall was there, and that opens up and leads them to the Hashishans or whatever, the assassins.
I guess the thing with me was that one of the buttons they pressed was a button that was just about to be
closing,
covered
because that's
as
what
the
she
wall.
found.
And that indicated to me like, oh, that was the one they had to press.
But since it's our alphabet, like since it's the same number as our alphabet, and it's a whole wall of letters. There's so many times.
It's definitely a possibility.
You could just do it on one wall.
And apparently,
if they allowed it like that, maybe on one wall they had a H on one and they didn't include it on the other.
And apparently, there is now a fourth wall, which gives a different option.
Yeah, they never chose that wall. That wall just, once they complete it, just opens up and leads them into a fiery hellscape, basically, in which we get to meet a bunch of assassins.
Yeah, the Hashashins.
So we're led into the assassin's den. We find out the leader of the assassins is Ali.
Who faked his own death.
Yeah, that was a scene that happened earlier where they're like, Ali died in a car crash.
So they get there, they secretly watch while the ritual happens.
The ritual is like them shooting energy beams.
And then all of the brothers are hugging each other. And then he finally takes his mask off, and then she's just like, "Ali!" in a whisper, but apparently, because they're in a cave.
Loud enough,
everybody hears them, and Jack's just like,
okay.
Fuck you! You screwed over us. And he just, resigns himself to being captured. And
oh, great. You revealed us.
I give up my Jack Hunter days now. Now I am Bill.
And then immediately tells them the information that they need to know, which is kind of nice because it's just like, hey, here's a heads up. The bad guys are following us. We came here anyway knowing that, but it's just so that you can try and do your thing.
Now, I've got an important question, Rachel. They're assassins. Old school assassins, with the all black headscarves and
knives only.
Not knives. The Saudi
Blades.
Arabian type swords, the ones that bend.
Scimitars?
Yeah.
Scimitars?
I think one of those bendy swords. And I got an important question for both of you: who wins in a fight? Guy with sword or guy with machine gun? Who wins? Group of guys with swords or group of guys with machine guns?
Well, Ryan, which one's sharper?
Bullets. Because guys with machine guns fucking wreck these assassins. These guys have been at it, saving the world and protecting the Syrian people for centuries, and they haven't adapted to modern weaponry.
But we see them using guns outside. I think it's meant to be more that that's a sacred space, so they aren't meant to bring modern things in there.
Dumbasses. Just dumb. Even the guys in the Mummy had guns.
They had a staff.
They had a staff that they proceeded never to use or protect.
They used it when the leads were incognito still.
Yeah, but
that was the
when the attack
ritual.
starts happening,
but when the attack happens,
they proceed to not protect it and not use it. Only Jack uses it, and he uses it to pretty much fuck up everything by destroying the entire mountain.
Yep.
He's our hero, by the way.
Mr. Albert's in the scene too, Ryan.
Oh, yeah, and he gets the staff. but then he doesn't get it, but then he gets it back, and he just runs away happy. He's like, I'll see you again, and we never see him again. That's the last time we see Albert, is him running off with the staff.
You make it sound like this film's going to end on a cliffhanger or something.
No. Yes, of course it does. And they get out of the cave having lost, because the bad guy has the magical weapon, but he needs to go to Egypt, and he knows that he needs to go to Egypt. Our heroes fucking lose. This is like a fucking tragedy. I didn't expect him to lose, but it's okay, because when they get to the surface, the police are there.
The army.
The Syrian army that you weren't supposed to mess with, but somehow the bad guys got away from them, even though they're surrounding the whole mountain. Somehow they got away.
And Trook's there too.
Thanks, Tariq.
Jack, I told you we meet again, my friend, huh?
See? I said I would come to your rescue. Day or night, Tariq is at your service. And I brought the army with me.
Why don't you guys just describe the ending for us all?
Well, clearly, Ryan, they go to a park, I think it was. It was a park, right?
Yeah, I think it's a park, or at least outside the hotel. Like, just having, a cafe or something.
It's definitely
Other people are eating food around them.
So it's a cafe or something.
Yeah, definitely a public cafe of something in a very greeny kind of environment. I think there's like a little pond nearby. Our hero is back to wearing his black shirt, so that's him in casual mode.
No longer looking like Indy.
And they have a conversation. He gets a phone call from original girl that he was kind of paired with.
Yeah, the assistant to Schaefer.
Yes.
Who I thought was a bad guy at some point. I thought everyone was a bad guy, in my defense.
Turns out she works for the company.
What one?
The company, the CIA.
We don't even know if that's the CIA. It just is
one
her.
One of you said CIA.
Rachel said, she's from the CIA, but all we get is a bunch of people smashing keyboards and looking at a bunch of television screens next to each other with cameras on.
Yeah, she's an American looking at a bunch of surveillance. So that leads to the assumption.
Yeah, it ends on a shot of her, right?
It ends on a shot of her just looking at the screen with him on it.
Just her eye.
But her glasses or whatever, reflecting the screen with him on the screen.
No, it's just her iris. She's not wearing glasses because she's not a nerd.
Whoa, brave statement.
No. Because she isn't the tech chick.
Breaking news. This woman's not a fucking nerd. She's a dweeb, but not a fucking nerd.
Is she even a dweeb?
We don't even allow nerds into the Jack Hunter universe, because if we have a nerd, we fucking shoot them in the first act, because nerds are not allowed in Jack Hunter's world.
Did any of the students in Schaefer's lecture have a
They're not nerds.
No.
They're dweebs, but they're not nerds. I've got the breaking source here. It's from the CIA. That chick, not a nerd. And the movie just ends with the bad guys winning, the good guys losing, and a reveal that this woman isn't who she seemed to be. We don't know if she works for the CIA. We just have to assume that.
We know she works for somebody.
She might.
And she's trying to protect the interests of the entire world.
So she works for S.H.I.E.L.D., huh?
Yeah.
Is this the Jack Hunter movie
or
in the
Torchwood style thing?
Yeah, so I reckon this is an expanded universe. It's going to be like the other rip-off movies. So it'll be like, this is the Indiana Jones rip-off movie. He's going to be teamed up with like the Star Wars rip-off movie. Like every Harrison Ford rip-off movie possible. It's like the Witness rip-off movie. It's like, so there's going to be an Indiana Jones rip-off teamed up with a Han Solo rip-off, teamed up with a guy who's an FBI agent, a guy who's a president on a plane.
A replicant?
A replicant, maybe, or at least a Blade Runner.
we're talking about Harrison Ford specifically.
Yeah, Harrison, all of his characters.
Yeah, then a Blade Runner.
And then a Blade Runner, and then, just real-life Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford on Graham Norton.
Yeah, and it would just be it would be called The Forgers.
The Forgers, yeah.
The Forgers. And it would just be a movie in which it's like the S.H.I.E.L.D. organization. She's like, I've teamed up the Earth's mightiest heroes, the Forgers. And they're all like Harrison Ford ripoffs. And then the leader of the group is Harrison Ford because he has nothing better to do.
Yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you? Always trying to blame me. You're the one who couldn't keep it in your furry pants.
This movie is weird, to say the least. It ends on a sour note, but it's a cliffhanger because there's going to be more. There's going to be more, and I've got to ask you guys the important question. Are you invested in the Jack Hunter series? Are you going to see more of them?
I would like to see more.
I don't feel like I'm that invested in it, but if you find a copy of the sequel, I will watch it.
I'm not. I don't want to see it. No, not really. I mean, I enjoyed this movie. I guess this is where we're going to ask if this is the recommended portion of the episode. Would we recommend this? I would recommend this as a stupid fun time. Turn off your brain movie. It's not offensive. We've had a few on here that have offended my intelligence or my morals. No, this isn't offensive. It's fun. It's stupid. You get a couple of laughs. It's not so bad it's good, but it's not a bad movie. I would say, like, it isn't great, but it's fine. It's serviceable.
The sound quality leaves a lot to be desired, I reckon.
It could be louder.
If you have a copy with subtitles, that would help a lot.
I would recommend it. I'm not invested in the rest of the series. If I do find it somehow, we will have it on the mystery box if it gets chosen after I find it. But I'm not going to go out of my way to go find more Jack. Bartek, would you recommend this?
Honestly, it's very similar to what you said. It was passable. It had a story. It had more of what we were expecting than, say, something like Meteor Apocalypse. It had funny moments. We found things to point at and laugh at. I personally struggled a bit to follow along with some of the revelations and the plot progression. But yeah, otherwise it was all right. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it, but if it's there, then,
put it on.
You won't hate yourself or anything.
A few specific groups of people that I would recommend this film to are people who non-ironically enjoy the film series The Librarian, and also parents who feel like Indiana Jones is a little bit too much for their kids to handle, but they want to watch something like that and are interested in it. Then this is the dupe that you feed your kids, that like this is a spin-off series of Indiana Jones.
This is the kids' Indiana Jones with River Phoenix, yeah. This film did rip off Indy, but it didn't have any Nazis with face melting effects, so...
Yeah, there wasn't anything extreme.
Just had Germans turning to dust.
It didn't have Russians being eaten by ants and Kate Blanchett discovering aliens.
We gotta wait for the Russians.
Only one murder had blood involved and seen at all.
What year do you guys think this film was made?
2003.
Bartek, what year do you think this came out?
I remember earlier on I was thinking more the mid-2000s, but as I was watching it, even though I had complaints about like the sound quality, I feel like the picture quality was a lot better. Better even than Meteor Apocalypse, which that one surprised me. That was like, what, 2009? So I'm thinking more around that time. I'm gonna guess 2008. What did you think, Ryan?
I thought 2007. Okay. Bang on, I went 2007. I'm like, this is 2007. And the answer is 2008. Bartek, you nailed it. Wow. 2008.
But it might have been filmed in 2007.
Oh, it's definitely filmed in 1999. And released in 2007.
Those were nice flip phones.
They had them in 1999.
The technology in the last scene, though, was pretty
full on. Yeah. It had CG in it. So, that's it. That's the episode. But wait a moment.
Oh? Are we in trouble?
We're in trouble, Rachel.
Oh, Rachel. Okay, not me.
Well, you're going to... Hold on a sec. Rachel, we're in trouble. Because Bartek brought in an uninvited guest. A villain. A monster. A creature that won't let us finish the episode until we defeat it. But he is the rub. He is the catch. He is the twist. We need another person to help us defeat this monster, because this monster, this creature, this being cannot be defeated by 3 individuals such as you, myself, and Bartek.
Sorry for bringing him, by the way.
Fucking dare you come in here and bring in a monster.
So the monster turned on you as well, Bartek.
Well, it was an uninvited guest.
But Bartek
even for Bartek. He was like, yo, man, stay outside. And it was like... Because it's Scooby-Doo. That's the monster.
It was a very weird scorpion.
It's a scorpion from hell.
So it's a scorpion
Hashtag not all scorpions.
that talks like
Scooby-Doo.
Okay.
Yeah. And we need to select a character from the movie that we think will help us defeat this scorpion that sounds like Scooby-Doo from hell. Rachel, who do you advocate as your defender of our lives?
So I believe the best choice for this is the bad guy's head henchman.
Ah, the one who shot the rat.
The one who had the gun that gave the villain the gun to shoot the rat. Because...
Memorable character.
Because he saves the villain's ass multiple times, and most likely was the reason that he managed to escape with the staff.
I didn't think of that guy who I never thought about. Bartek, you? Who do you advocate as our hero, our champion, our defender?
Well, I thought that we should have someone who, against all odds, didn't die. So we can't have Schaefer. Which is a shame. Unless we get a spirit. But you know what, Ryan?
We don't know. There could be a sequel.
Look,
Schaefer's Spirit. We know the sequel's not called that, but...
That'll be the sequel after the sequel.
The third installment.
Ryan, against all odds, against all doubt, Taruk never died.
Taruk or Tariq? His brother, Tariq Rook.
And he can drive. And he owns a gun.
And he's a heavy sleeper.
Yeah.
Good. I like both of your suggestions. Both of them, I knew Bartek was going to go down that route. Rachel, fucking sideblind. Like, I'm fucking blindsided there.
Third time's a charm, right?
I was going to select Paul Giamatti.
Oh, okay.
Dad, because he was just so nice, and he did come back at the end and was like, I told you you'd see me again. I literally saw you this morning, but I told you you'd see me again. I think, I don't know, Bartek. I think Rachel really defended her case.
Rachel had the best argument.
I think we have to select Goon.
Unnamed character?
Unnamed Goon.
Head henchman.
Head henchman. Right-hand man.
Henchman.
We are selecting, I don't know, Bartek, I'm on Rachel's side, and that's two against one there, so...
No, I'm on her side too.
You're on her side too?
It's 4 against 1.
Oh no, that's right. We have to fight Scorpion. Bartek has to go first because he's the one who started this mess.
Well, look, I have Eastern European blood, so obviously I'm gonna flick it. This giant scorpion that's much bigger than the one in the film. And you know what? I think we'll be alright. So minimal damage. My fingernail.
No.
Bartek's hurt fingernail.
I take recall damage.
The flick does kick him out of the door.
Oh no!
The giant scorpion. Okay, cool.
The giant scorpion that burst through our doorway uninvited because he was meant to stay outside and he didn't.
Outside.
And what does the scorpion say in response to being flicked?
Oh fuck! Now it's my turn. I'm gonna choose grabbing the key to the door and locking the door. Because my option is not attack, but movement based. I am doing the movement towards key. I hear Scorpion Tail moving, but I am not phased by this. I use grab key option. This is a multi-phased.
Yes.
And I run towards door. Scorpion knocks key out of hand. My move failed. And then
the scorpion says, even if you did lock it, I would have picked it with my pincer.
Or my tail.
Or tail, yes.
Or mouth. As we know, I have 3 ways of fucking you over. Really think about this next time. And I'm like, you're right.
And then we're like, what happened to your Scooby-Doo voice? It's like, it's, whatever.
Well, I was translating it like Shaggy would. Rachel, now it's your turn. You have to do something against this big, mean scorpion who sounds like Scooby-Doo.
This scorpion that sounds like Scooby-Doo.
And it's giant.
I will distract in the way that you would do actual Scooby-Doo, which is to say that there's a ghost behind him and he will run away because, as we know, the reason why he didn't want to stay outside is because it was getting dark. And as most people know, Bartek hangs around with some werewolves, so it's a bit suspicious crowd, so the scorpion didn't trust to be left alone outside.
And who does he run into?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Our 4th guy needs to do something.
Yeah.
And you're saying he's going to run into him, but guess what? He actually runs into another meaner scorpion who's going to team up against us. But thank God, we have a 4th member, Henchman. He gives Bartek 2 guns. And Bartek, this is still his move, by the way. You fire guns at Scorpions saying, looks like we got some rats. And then we beat them, and now we can end the episode.
Successful.
Thanks, henchman. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Bartek. Thank you,
So he was like a
Ryan.
beast tamer thing, but the beast was me.
Yeah.
Okay.
The beast is you.
I'm fine with that. I hang out with werewolves, apparently, so that's fine.
You are a werewolf.
Ooh. Are you saying he's a werewolf?
I said werewolf, not a fucking owl. You sounded more like an owl.
I was trying to go for a ooh kind of thing.
You sound way too owl-like.
Just sound like
Well,
an
the fact that
owl.
I'm saying who, but I was howling like the.
I know.
I was doing the stereotypical.
I know you were
howl.
trying.
I'm now too worried about sounding like an owl to even attempt
Should
to
I have
sound
gone?
like a dog.
Should I have gone for like an
Deeper.
ow kind of thing?
Ow! Yeah. Instead of
Well, you made it sound a bit like Scooby.
ow, but you were more like ooh, 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 ooh. I'm like, what is this? A fucking owl attack?
Well, I didn't start with the A sound, but everything else was alright.
Hey, hoo, 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 hoo. So you guys have been a fantastic, amazing, wonderful listening people. What? What's funny? They have been. Leave them alone, Bards. Like, they've been great listening people, having to suffer through us as we suffered through a movie that I recommended, as did you, as did Rachel.
I was laughing because they made a funny face. The
You
listening
made-
people.
You stupid face.
Well, they're not stupid. It's like a complimentary laugh.
Stupid face.
Yeah, you can have a stupid face without being stupid.
Yeah, you can have an incredibly stupid face but be intelligent.
Guys, when you rate us on iTunes, give a separate rating for each co-host. The one that complimented you and the one that called you stupid.
I said stupid face, so different. You guys have been fantastic, amazing, wonderful listening people as always. Rachel, pleasure to have you on as a guest and as a selector of the movie. I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed having you as a guest. Bartek, as always, a pleasure hosting with you and having to endure what the box has given us. Woo! Because it's spooky. If you guys want to support us, just drop us a rating on iTunes or like us on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on the YouTubes, we're on Spotify now. We're Spit and Polish Presents. You can find us under that name on many different mediums. And it should be a fun, easy time. Until next time, guys, remember to be kind to each other.